It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about, little fun, little entertainment. My Red Hat friends lost their mind as the Biden EPA finished off their tailpipe standard. And all I kept hearing about is, they're taking our freedoms. They're taking our freedoms. They're stealing our freedom to buy that gas guzzler that I'm complaining about gas prices being too high. Yeah, lost the mind over the last couple of days. And look, as long as they keep people focused on that, focused on nonsense, they're stealing our freedoms. Maybe they won't pay attention to the nonsense that has been the Republican Party platform, which, again, for working people, not good. For average, everyday working people, not good at all. And I keep asking this question, what have Republicans done in my lifetime? And I'm opening this up to a big swath of time. What have they done in my lifetime that benefited working people? Solely, they introduced a bill, they passed the bill, they got it signed by the president, and it went into action that helps working people. One could argue that when George H.W. Bush was president, he did sign the Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay, but that was a Democratic Congress that did that. They put it on the desk of a Republican president. I'm saying, what have Republicans moved forward on? What has been their baby? What has been their ideological push to make working people's lives better? Look, they're trying their darndest to make workers think that they're on their side, yet haven't found the policy. Again, there's rhetoric and there's action. There's the stuff we see on Fox News, and there's the stuff we see on the podcast circuit, and there's the stuff we see when they give their little minute speeches. There's a whole different world of what they write down and sign their name on in a piece of legislation, which is why I found it interesting that I came across the Republican Study Committee's 2025 budget proposal. This is their moral document. This is their list of these are our priorities. These are our values. And the headline, look, they're really good at making headlines. Fiscal sanity to save America. And you go through some of the chapter headings, like my favorite is ensuring liberty through deregulation. Yeah, because we want corporate America to be able to poison the water and the air at will. We want, workers to be less safe because it's going to save the employer a nickel a day. Yeah, we want to deregulate and make everything the Wild West again. Now, as I always say, I hear people say, they're job-killing regulations, Rick. But what about the people killing lack of regulation? Yeah, we don't get to talk about that at all. Another one of my favorite, creating opportunity through tax reform. And I love it. This has been their fetish my entire life. Gutting the federal government of resources to be able to do the things that we, the people, want them to do, which is why they get to run up massive debt and why we are, in financial uncomfortable area as far as I'm concerned. And their solution, more tax cuts. Their only tool in the toolbox is tax cuts. That's it. We're going to give more money to people at the very top, and the hopes that maybe if we do it enough, their insatiable appetite for more will be satisfied, and it will eventually, someday, trickle down to the rest of us. Hasn't. Their other chapter, opportunity. You getting the theme here? Opportunity through empowerment and self-sufficiency, which basically means, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And well, those of you who can't, tough. One of my other favorite ones is personalized and affordable health care. This is where again, this is the kind of soft repeal and replace thing. This isn't about fixing the Affordable Care Act and solving some of the problems that it has. No. This is about, again, tax stuff and that. But I got to tell you, my favorite part of this entire plan is the chapter on saving Medicare, because we're going to have to kill it. Sorry, got to kill Medicare. In order to save it, we got to kill it. And this one, this one's glorious. Preventing Biden's cuts to Social Security. And as I read this, I'm going, do they really believe we're all that stupid to buy that? Now, I know they believe that their voters are. I know that they believe that the people who vote for them are sufficiently stupid to fall for this. But the rest of us, not so much. This idea that Biden's going to cut Social Security is wrong. It's a lie. But it goes back to something that, I've always believed in. When someone accuses you of doing something, it's because it's what they're doing. And this is another example of that, where Republicans have talked extensively about how they want to eventually make cuts to entitlement programs. Now, these aren't entitlement programs. These are benefits that people worked for, paid into, and expect at the end of the road. Just because we've got a broken Congress right now because one of the houses is controlled by lunatics, doesn't mean working people should get the shaft. And it certainly doesn't mean down the road we should be pushing off our problems on kids into the future. This idea that we're going to raise Social Security again and keep raising the age, sorry, not there. Now, what they've come around to this time is, well, we're going to start when, people are like 18, 19, we're going to start cutting down the road, we're not going to affect you. You're going to be fine. We're just going to screw those people down the road. And they mean that. They don't really care about your kids. They don't really care about this program. In fact, they've always hated Social Security. They've always wanted to get rid of it. And in my mind, this is where we, voting people, have to look at what they're doing and what they're saying. They want to cut it. Very clear. And I know that, during the State of the Union, they know we would never do such a thing. But understand, they've been the party who they were against it from the beginning. They were against all of the New Deal programs from the beginning. And I keep saying, they're trying to repeal the 20th century. And if you look at their proposals, their moral documents, their statements of who they are, that's what it's about. It's about destroying that legacy that built what we're still kind of holding on to. We're still, clinging to the last vestiges of that really prosperous working class that my grandparents' generation fought for. That era where if you worked hard and played by the rules, you actually could get ahead. They want to take us back to the days where, desperation, poverty, wages, that's the reality. So going to be interesting to see where this all goes. It's infuriating, but the tailpipe standard, interesting bit of insanity. And here to share some thoughts, I've asked my good friend Mike Williams to come talk with us. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mike Williams from the Center for American Progress going to be here to talk about the EV revolution and, well, are red hats losing their mind for a reason or just because they like to? Back after this.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Indigenous people have been saying that we feel a shift in the climate for decades. Climate change is here. The time is now to pass the torch on to the next generation of clean energy warriors. We need to put the land back to work for our people. That means creating jobs for them to live and thrive in our communities. The time is now. Congress must invest in clean energy.
So my Red Hat Brigade losing their ever-loving freaking minds over the fact that President Biden and the EPA finalized the tailpipe standard rule. All I kept hearing is, how dare you tell me what kind of vehicle I have to buy? And hey, I love my gas guzzler, while simultaneously complaining about the price of gas. It's a very weird situation. And here to share some thoughts on, what this tailpipe standard actually does, and if you'll be able to buy your gas guzzler. I've asked our good friend Mike Williams to come talk with us. Mike's a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, AmericanProgress.org, where you'll find his work. He is the specialist on domestic climate policy. So I think the right guy to ask about this. Mike, thanks for taking time for us.
Anytime, Rick, anytime. I'll try not to be too snarky about gas guzzling cars. I actually have one myself, so we can be honest about this.
No. And then this is let's start what this is. I've heard a lot of the right wing losing their mind that this is taking our freedom somehow. And I got to tell you, I don't want my freedoms taken away, but I do like the freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and all of that. But what does this policy do? What is this rule change? What are the nuts and bolts?
Yeah, this is not taking anyone's car. It's not preventing anyone from buying any type of car. So first and foremost, let's set that aside. The EPA's tailpipe standards are about giving benchmarks and guidance for what manufacturers can make and sell in the U.S. And this is part of the Clean Air Act. Clean Air Act has been a law since 1970. This is about keeping our air clean. It's about taking care of the climate crisis. So this is an update that the Biden administration had to do. And they did it really well, to be honest with you. They did it so well that the UAW and Ford were pretty cool with this rule. This is about making it so that we keep making and selling American-made cars in the U.S. for the next generation or few. The next few generations of cars are going to be clean cars. They're going to be EVs mostly. They're going to be hybrids as well. This is about making sure that that stays here in America and it's not imported from China.
Right. But all I've heard over the last couple of days, Mike, is taking my freedom. They're gonna come. The EV police are gonna come kick down our door and steal our keys in the middle of the night.
Yeah, the EV police. That doesn't exist.
Be sure.
There's no EPA police. There's no EV police. Nobody is going to come seize your F-150. And I say this as the proud owner of a 2018 F-150. I love my truck. I'm not giving it up. But we also happen to we live in Maine, so we have a 2-car household. We have a Chevy Bolt also. It's amazing. It is amazing technology. We charge mostly at home. It can go 200 to 240 miles on one charge. It works great. And nobody's going to touch my truck. And my electric car helps our family so much. I barely pay for gas now. That's it. It's amazing. Most of our driving is in the electric car, which we charge at home, which is amazing. So again, nobody's taking anyone's autos. And also, this is about into the future. This is not locking in place what happens this year and next year. This is about what starts in 2027 and goes to 2032. And it's in 2032 then we see where the manufacturers have to get to around 70+% for zero emission vehicles. So it's mostly EVs, but then they also can have a certain percentage for hybrids in 2032. This is 8 years from now to start.
Yeah, it's only 8 years. Mike, it's only 8 years.
It's 8 years.
You make it sound like it's a long time down the road. It's only 8 years, considering we have to change over our entire infrastructure to support these EVs. Because I don't know about you, and I don't know how many charging stations are near you. I only know of a couple in my neighborhood, so it's going to take a lot of work for us to catch up, so that people are able to find charging stations if they're traveling, longer distances. There's a lot here. At least I think there is.
Yeah, no, it's a real concern, Rick. I'll say though, the bipartisan infrastructure bill had $7+ billion in it to build EV charging stations. And that money is just starting to go out the door to states. And there hopefully should be breaking ground on new charging stations throughout the country this year, 2024. We're going to start seeing a big build out in infrastructure. We saw the agreement from GM and Tesla and a bunch of the other automakers on a common charging standard. So then the Tesla chargers will then fit all the other cars. So we're going to have everything's coming together. We're getting over our VHS beta hump for those of us who are ancient like Rick and I, where we had a debate over which cassette we could watch on. For the younger viewers of Rick's, I'm sorry, I just used that analogy. But we're getting over that hump. And by the end of this year, we're going to see the infrastructure change dramatically.
I'm still a beta guy. I'm still a beta guy. So
You're
to bring
still
it
a beta guy.
I prefer the beta machine. It was a much better machine than the VHS. It was much better quality. I'm still sticking by that, even though both of them are outdated and found the junk heap. To update this a little bit so everybody else who isn't old like us will understand. It's like having a common phone charger.
Yeah.
It's not letting Apple change it every couple of years, or someone else, so that you have to keep buying new ones over and over again.
Yeah, and that agreement happened late last year. So the Biden administration worked with Tesla. The CEO and the president are not really on great terms, but they worked together to figure that out, that common charger, and to bring in the other automakers. So I think we're moving in a really good direction. It's okay to be nervous about this. We're in a big technological change, but to say that it's far off, it's wrong. We're in the middle of it. We, for the first time last year, sold over 1 million EVs. We are seeing EV uptake increase dramatically. Yes, it has the interest and spike has what slowed, is what the media said, but it's not like it's gone down. It's just the rate at which it's increasing has slowed somewhat, because all the initial people who were buying EVs have gotten their EVs. And now it's getting to that next stage of that next big concentric circle of car owners to get comfortable with this notion of, so I don't go to a gas station to get the thing that powers my car. I do it at home, or do it at these charging stations. And so we're getting to that place. And I think within a year or so, when we see all the infrastructure build out, people are going to get more and more comfortable and realize just how much better it is to have electric vehicles. They're cleaner, they're quieter, they're faster, they drive really well. All in all, and also, public health wise, we're saving probably millions of lives over the term of this with the amount of emissions and pollution we are pulling out of the air. There's that too. And helping solve the climate crisis, there's that too. This is a phenomenal addition to our arsenal for fighting climate change.
But here's the thing, and this is where I keep getting the Red Hat Brigade throwing at me that it's hard to get what we need to make the batteries. That the batteries that we need to charge are done a large part by coal-fired power plants. How do you respond to those?
Yeah, and so the batteries being charged by coal-fired power plants. I mean, so it depends on what state you're in. I'm in Maine. Our grid is pretty clean. So if I plug into the grid, then I get a pretty clean mix of electricity that's going to power my car. It's a mix of gas and renewables and hydro and things like that. If you're in Kentucky, it's going to be more coal, but that's changing over time and changing pretty rapidly too. So that argument is pretty dusty and dead at this point. I would just sort of shake my head at people who say, when they're like, that's just going to be powered by coal. That's just not true. It's really not true. The point about where the materials go to the battery was true. We are actively changing that. Again, the Biden administration and Congress passed a couple really landmark laws last year that invested in building out a battery supply chain here in the US. Do you know that because of these investments and because we're pushing for EVs, we're actually looking at tens of thousands of jobs already created in manufacturing for EVs and battery manufacturing in the US. So this notion of losing jobs is actually not true. We're gaining jobs currently. Do we need to figure out a robust, strong supply chain? Yes, we are also doing that. In addition to building it here, the administration is working with folks in Europe, with folks in South America to figure out the pieces that we can't get right away. So extra lithium from Chile, working with folks in Canada for cobalt, other places like that to make sure we have a strong supply chain and make sure that it's robust and our allies across the world have access to this too. So us diving into this makes us a legitimate leader. Whereas if we didn't, Rick, who do you think would lead the EV revolution if we didn't do it?
Well, it's going to be China. It would have been China.
China, exactly.
And this is where I come back to, every transition has its got its obstacles. And look, I'm a supporter of EVs. I'm a supporter of the idea of electric vehicles or hybrids. I think those are good too. And I think we should be moving away from the combustion engine. I just think it makes sense. But you've got to pull people along, and this is going to be an election year issue. All I keep seeing now is, this is going to be the issue that divides Trump and Biden, because Biden, wants everyone to have an EV and have solar panels, and Trump wants, just a drill baby drill and big gas guzzlers, and it's the 1950s again, Mike, in their world. So I'm told the voters are going to decide. So is this not kind of not a great time to throw this out?
I would challenge that it might be the great time to put it out there. When you look at opinion polling on energy, on clean air, clean water, it is not even close. So 70, 80% support across all parties, across all ideologies, liberals, conservatives, progressives, all deep support for clean energy, for clean air, clean water, for fighting climate change. They want all these things. There's support for EVs. That's become a bit more of a cleaved issue. But for independents support electric vehicles. So I would say President Biden's putting this forward and the EPA is putting this forward for good reason, to give us cleaner air, to fight the climate crisis, and to support American manufacturing. Put that out there and say, so you want to rely on a coal industry that's dying? You want to rely on closing ourselves in and letting China take over the auto industry, which is what they are trying to do, where instead we could work together. And the president, again, he's working with the UAW, with Ford, with General Motors on this. They supported this today. So working with American industry, American might, cleaning air, cleaning water, fighting the climate crisis, let's have that debate. I welcome that.
No, it's a good thing to have. Now, I understand this wasn't, because you listen to the Red Hat Brigade, this is the most radical thing ever. Was this the most radical option? Was this the most extreme option? Where do you put this finalized rule on the measure of I don't want to use the word extreme, aggressiveness? Where do you put that?
As with a lot of things with Joe Biden, it was pretty pragmatic and not maybe a little more forward than middle of the road. But no, it was not radical. No, the first choice that the EPA put out that we supported, we really liked it. It set a glide path again, and this only starts in 2027 and goes up to 2032. It pushed it so the uptake for the automakers would have to come a little quicker. The EPA decided to take a second option, is actually alternative 3. And that was supported by Ford and the auto workers, and said where it slowed it down in the earlier years and said, let's take a little time and bring people on board. The EPA went with that. They went with the more moderate, thoughtful option. Again, we had pushed for one. We think we could have done the much quicker one. We really do. The technology's there. The infrastructure will be there. But the president said, no, you know what? Let's take a couple more years to give this some time to really build in. So again, no, No, not the most radical thing in the world. Not even close.
So walk with me then, if you will. 2032, we've gone through these 8 years. We've moved over production. We've done all this stuff. What do people do with who? I'm hoping to still have my Jeep, which is got a V6 in it. I know a lot of people who want to hold on to their cars for years into the future. What happens to those? Do they become obsolete? Do we strangle them with regulation to where they're no longer allowed on the road? What happens? Or do we not have an idea?
No, I mean, I can't predict the future fully. I wish I could. But I would strongly say that nothing would happen that's different. You will still drive your Jeep happily. Your next car probably will be much cleaner. Might be a hybrid. Maybe it'll be an electric vehicle at that point, because there'll be so many more options. This is about the next vehicle or the one after that. This is about our kids' vehicles. It's really setting that stage. There is literally nothing that will touch the cars that you're driving. Again, this is not regulating you. This is just working with and regulating the industry and saying what they should be producing for the American public to make sure that it's clean. It's not polluting our air, adding to the climate crisis. So no, my F-150, I hope it already has 110,000 miles on it. I don't know if it's going to make 8 more years. We'll see. If it is, and I'm going to try, I'll keep driving it. But it means that when I replace it, I'm going to have more, better, and more affordable options, because the more competition for EVs means the price goes down. We're already seeing that. The price went down for the Mustang Mach-E. The price went down for the Tesla Model Y and the Model S. So Model 3 too. This is a good thing. It just means that next stage, the next vehicle will be cleaner.
No, it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to a future with clean air and water and all of those things. It's just that transition period that I'm concerned about. But as you've pointed out, this is for the next generation. And that generation is really active, engaged in the idea of saving the climate and saving the planet, because it's what we're leaving them. And I'm sure that they would probably like to have something worth inheriting, but we'll see how this goes. I know there's a lot more to get in with this, and I know we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, because the Red Hats are still losing their minds. But Mike, as always, I appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thank you, Rick. I always appreciate it.
Good stuff. Mike Williams, a senior fellow there at the Center for American Progress, AmericanProgress.org, the website, if you want to take a look at the work that he does. I want to hear your thoughts. Are you on board with the EV future, the electric future? I think it's going to be an exciting period. Anytime there's progress and transition, I think it's an exciting time. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com.